Experiment in the human history, and is forecasting that we're all in this together. And so I would like to ask, how was this time for you, and what were you and are your challenges in these times? As what I'm concerned, I'm used to travel about 70% of my time for my profession globally, which I really love so much. And early March, I was like millions around the world overnight in a situation where I could not even visit my father anymore, who lives just a couple of blocks away. And as I work in the training sector, all our client orders got postponed and canceled. And there was like so many of us, so many of you in a completely new situation, far away from my comfort zone, not knowing what comes next. It was truly strange. And it would have probably been easy to stay in fear and frustration. And I'm sure many of you must have had a similar experience. And I must say, and that's why I'm telling that here today, I must say that during this time for me, I so much appreciated the gift that yoga and meditation has brought to me. I so much appreciated the meditation with you, Gurudev, Sri Ravi Shankar, twice a day. It gave me stability and strength and also a certain creativity to find new solutions. And so I see it so important that with this festival, the world of yoga unites and really takes responsibility to share its ancient tools and techniques with the world. Techniques which are scientifically proven to be so powerful for mental and physical health and well-being. And so I'm happy that today we have more than 50 speakers from 20 renowned yoga schools from Europe, but also from around the world. I'm so grateful that all of you took time to join, and in particular, I'm extremely grateful for Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, the founder of the Sri School for Yoga and the Art of Living, of course, to take time for this, to join us on this important day. I also really would like to congratulate the dedicated organizing team of the Sri Yoga School, who really worked pretty much day and night over the last couple of weeks, and from the Art of Living Foundation for bringing all this together. The Sri School for Yoga aims to teach yoga in its purity of an ancient tradition, with technical skill, but also a pragmatic scientific approach. And over the last couple of months, the trainers of the Sri School for Yoga have helped thousands of people in need by offering free online sessions. And with this festival today, the school aims to be at service to all of you, the tens of thousands watching right now and joining us throughout this day. I think in a time in which nations, in which races are so much divided, in the world, both external and internal unity is more needed than ever. And so I would like to thank all of you participants, as Peja said, from 70 countries in the world, and all the speakers, yogis, and yoga schools today to unite for this important cause. I think your engagement gives hope, gives joy. Certainly it gives a lot of joy to me, and I'm sure to all of you out there. Enjoy the festival, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Christoph. And thank you for putting everything in the context and for your beautiful sharing. I think many of us will find us in the same situation. And it's my pleasure to welcome now Her Excellency Mr. Gayatri Isar Kumar, who is the ambassadors of India to the Belgium and Luxembourg and to the European Union. Her Excellency, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody from Brussels, the heart of the European Union. It's a great pleasure for me to join Art of Living and the worldwide participants in this virtual seminar. I'm at the Embassy of India to the European Union, Belgium and Luxembourg, and a very warm namaste to everyone. I take this opportunity to also convey my best wishes to the organizers of this wonderful initiative. I would like to start by agreeing that this online yoga festival for mental health is extremely well timed. We are just a few days away from June 21, the International Day of Yoga. 6 years ago, the people of the world represented in the United Nations General Assembly had voted to declare this day, June 21, as the date on which every year the ancient science of yoga would be celebrated by the international community. And Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, to declare this day, June 21, as the date on which every year the ancient science of yoga would be celebrated. And Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, unprecedented stuff is enough to make anybody extremely nervous and anxious. And obviously, many among us have unfortunately experienced a severe effect on our mental health. Yet at the same time, during this period, so many have shared that during this maddening confinement, the one thing that has kept them going is yoga. And many of those who I did not even know were into yoga had told me that they had been downloading Guruji's the sessions and found a lot of comfort and solace and strength from that. And so by regularly practicing yoga, so many have found a kind of an inner strength which helps them to preserve their equilibrium and mental health during this period. And as we are aware, I have, as I've been sharing here in the European Union again and again, scientific inquiry, modern scientific inquiry has proven that when we allow the pace of our lives and our priorities to disturb the delicate equilibrium between our minds and bodies, there's bound to be conflict and stress and confusion. And for dealing with that, it's the yoga, the meditation, the postures that make the mind and body work together. And that restores the harmony that is very much required, and even more so today. And this is what I think today's session is all about. And I think we should leave it to the experts to explain to us. But what I do think is relevant to mention over here is that there's a considerable enhancement of mental strength and stamina when you're doing yoga. You do not feel the walls and the spaces around you. You feel that you are going into an inner realm. And especially in societies where I am in the West, where you have affluent societies, where you have chronic stress, but that again gets associated with mental health issues. In Europe, where they say that depression is about almost 10 to 20% and 264 million people globally across all age groups have to address this disease. We are warned that due to COVID, they're going to see a sharp spike in numbers of people suffering from depression. Now, that is something to be very wary about. And this is where yoga can help international researchers. And of course, most international research institutions have found that yoga helps to reduce heart rate, modulate stress response systems, lower blood pressure, ease respiration. These are the absolute physical responses to yoga which have been noticed and proven. And so these all help to trauma survivors, and I think that's who have shown good results. So here I would say that even children should be brought into it, trained from a very young age, because then that would help them to be resilient. Even they are feeling the stress of confinement, even they have felt, although we've done all that we can to prevent them from having the effect of the confinement, but children also need to be introduced to the techniques of yoga and meditation, because their mental health is equally important as they are growing up in these absolutely unprecedented and exceptional circumstances. For Alzheimer's also, they say that yoga helps with mental health and reduces dementia. So I'm sure that many among us would very much like to be magically transported to a calm and peaceful oasis in Bangalore, to be guided by His Holiness Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar Ji on how to make yoga and meditation a part of our daily routine. And it's a privilege for me to request him to speak to us on the efficacy of yoga in maintaining mental health. And hearing him, I would just like to say that as a humanitarian and spiritual leader, Guruji's vision for a stress-free and violence-free society has always recognized the role of yoga and meditation in sustaining mental health, in alleviating stress and strengthening the immune system. And he's not only an inspiring spiritual leader and teacher, but a global personality. And as the founder of the Art of Living Network, he's changed the lives and motivated more than 450 million people across the globe. And for his work across the continents, he has been recognized with awards and titles bestowed upon him by governments, academic institutions, and prestigious organizations. And we in India are very proud of the fact that in 1986, Guruji was accorded the title of Yoga Shiromani, which means Supreme Jewel of Yoga, by the Honorable President of India. And later in January 2016, he was conferred the Padma Vibhushan, which is India's highest civilian award. And then we also know, for all those who are joining us and who I just thought I would mention, that Guruji had acquired the power of the Sudarshan Kriya after a deep meditation. And he has since then been sharing that through the Art of Living with millions. Those of us who have tried it and those who practice it regularly know that this technique has given us an inner strength that has changed our outlook and our lives. And Guruji, I don't see you on the screen here, but I would like to, momentarily, I think, I would like to say that it's an honor for me to be in this webinar, but you honor the webinar with your gracious presence. And we look forward to learning more from you on how to adapt to the demands of our present day circumstances and alleviate stress and improve our mental well-being through yoga. I also take this opportunity to wish everybody who's participating in this webinar the very best of health and well-being, and a very happy International Day of Yoga 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the very complete and inspiring addressing, really bringing us back to the aim of this first yoga festival for mental health. Thank you. Before going ahead, I wanted to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Rajiv Kumar, Second Secretary, Embassy of India. Mr. Kumar, glad that you are with us.
Madam. Namaskar, Gurudev.
Namaskar.
On behalf of Embassy of India in Bern, I convey heartfelt greetings from Switzerland to Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar, Excellency Ambassador, Madam Gayatri, all distinguished speakers, Mr. Christoph, and online participants. We recall visit of Gurudev to Switzerland last year in June when he delivered a talk on mindfulness and peace. It was really a memorable experience for all of us. His Holiness also planted a tree at India House, which is growing very fast. But this June month is different. And we thank Art of Living for giving us this opportunity to join the online festival on mental health, the first of its kind. We wish great success to this endeavor, which will help millions of people across the world who are going through the difficult times of current pandemic. Thank you, Gurudev. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. So it's my real honor, my pleasure, my privilege to welcome Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar, founder of Shri School of Yoga and founder of Art of Living. Gurudev, it's such a privilege to have you with us today in this auspicious occasion of the festival. Floor is yours, thousands really waiting for your opening speech.
Very good, Beatrice, and Her Excellency Gayatri Ji and His Excellency Kumar Ji. You have, in fact, put the whole picture already. What are the benefits of yoga, how it is helping. I only have to add a little more to it. You know, in our brain physiology, the back portion of our brain, the hippocampus, they get lesions. And the scientists have found there is no way to get rid of these lesions other than giving long sleep or sedation to people. But with meditation, these lesions disappear so that you feel fresh and those lesions go away and it prevents Alzheimer from taking over your whole life. Similarly, amygdala, the amygdala as the portion of the brain which is in the center of the brain, that starts thinking. And there is more than 600 research work papers that has been out there today. You can see Dr. Fari is here. He would tell more about the impact of meditation and kriya and pranayama on human physiology. And there are many more doctors who are going to participate. You know, yoga not only enhances our sharpness of intellect, but it also softens our heart, our feelings. Today we see there is a behavioral disorder in the world. You take from South America to all the way up to Japan and China, our society is clogged with aggression on one side and depression on the other side. Youth are becoming more and more aggressive. There has been increase in domestic violence in the lockdown time, increase in divorce rates. On the other side, people are getting depressed and they don't know what to do with their life, and loneliness. People who feel lonely are on rise. Here, it's yoga, pranayama, meditation, works magic. It takes people out of both this extreme behavior of humans. From aggression, it brings you to a normal human being, so also from depression. And this year, let us all take a vow to see that mental health of our society is maintained well. The other day, the Assistant General to the Secretary General United Nations mentioned to me that there was 8 lakh suicide cases in the past few months. 800,000 committed suicide and 350 million people are affected by mental health. So when we have a medication, we have a way to get out of this issue, we will have to spread it to the mankind. We will have to make it available everywhere. See, when people are hungry, they go to restaurants. Restaurants are available everywhere. And if they want to do exercise, gymnasiums are available everywhere. But there are not yet so many yoga studios as it is needed. And I congratulate all the yoga enthusiasts who have today joined from all over Europe and even other parts of smile. And that smile somewhere gets hidden due to stress. Congratulate all the yoga enthusiasts free from crime who have today joined. Yoga has something to contribute here. Yoga can help people all over Europe and even other parts of the violence, violent tendencies. And that smile, we see this happening somewhere gets hidden all over the world. Millions all the yoga enthusiasts free from crime have today joined. Yoga has something to contribute here. Yoga can help people all over Europe and even other parts of the violence, violent tendencies. And that smile, we see this happening somewhere gets hidden all over the world. All the yoga enthusiasts free from crime have today joined yoga and we have distract has something to contribute to yoga can help people all over Europe and even other parts of the violence, violent tendencies. That smile, we see this happening somewhere gets hidden all over the world. Without having to worry about free from crime today joined yoga and we have distract has something to contribute to yoga can help people all over Europe and even other parts of the emotional meditation, harmony, see this happening all without having to worry. Summarize, I can say, violence-free society, free body, fear-free breath, confusion-free mind, inhibition-free intellect. See what is happening, emotional meditation. Always said Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We are all part of one human family, irrespective of our religion, race, caste, creed, whatever it is, language. But we all belong to each other. We all belong to the one divinity. So, prejudice-free intellect, trauma-free memory, and sorrow-free soul. This is the birthright of every human being. And this yoga festival, online yoga festival, can inspire millions to take on to the path. Your ideologies can continue. If it is not harming others, those things you can continue. If you are having an ideology which is based on harm, creating harm to others, then you should stay away from yoga. But this is not going to let you have the violent tendencies within you. Otherwise, this does not contradict anybody's belief system. You can follow any religion, but do practice yoga and find peace and happiness in your life. And so let it spread to everyone around you. With these few words, I wish all the organizers and all of you, all the participants and yogis and gurus who are joining this conference, all the best and blessings. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gurudev, for your blessing.
Conference. All the best and blessings. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurudev, for your blessing.
Okay. All the best and blessings.
Gurudev, thank you so much for being with us on this auspicious occasion. We have
better condition to recover after the stress, after the competing goals. All our life is a kind of escaping from the Leo, which is trying to catch us. Think about the COVID-19 that push a lot of people in a sort of jail, an home jail. In this situation, we have suffered better condition to recover after the stress, after the competing goals. And all our life is a kind of escaping from the Leo, which is trying to catch us. Think about the COVID-19 that push a lot of people in a sort of jail, an home jail. In this situation, we have suffered better condition to recover after the stress, after the competing goals. And all our life is a kind of escaping from the Leo, which is trying to catch us. Think about the COVID-19 that push a lot of people in a sort of jail, an home jail. In this situation, we have suffered better condition to recover after the stress, after the competing goals. And all our life is a kind of escaping from the Leo, which is trying to catch us. Think about the COVID-19 that push a lot of people in a sort of jail, an home jail. In this situation, we have suffered better condition to recover after the stress, after the competing goals. And all physiology and switching to the parasympathetic. So fear means orthosympathetic reaction. Yoga means the mindful relaxation, calm state of the mind. So we switch off the brain and the mind can expand like oil horizontally, expanding everywhere. So we can change our behaviors and our habits. Of course, this is depending also a kind of self-transformation, and to make them a little easier, we have to follow some basic principle as to follow the proper diet. So serving is very important. Every single religion which take care about the nutrition, the serving, you can find in the Israeli principle, in the Catholic, in the Hinduism, in the Tibetan religion. So we better follow the concept of to reduce the amount of food. So we have to reorganize the control of goal directed to the behavior. So the best behavior we can achieve is an executive functioning of the brain. So the brain is good when we have to survive for the fast and fly, fight and fly. But we cannot always run so hardly. We have to recover. So we need time. We need to recover with the meditation, with the yoga. So we better switch on the different way of mental health. Mental health means retreats. It means also effective strategies and effective strategy that can help protect and restore the mental health through, yoga practicing can become much more accepted and practiced to support mental health and disorder because you can change changing in the blood patterns also before and after the practicing of yoga. GABA, the neurotransmitter which has an inhibitory capacity, will be increased after 1 hour of yoga. This is amazing because your immune system will be pumped by the GABA. So we have to release, we have to increase the capacity to switch to the parasympathetic activity. We cannot fight 24 hours a day. And sometimes we act like a gazelle. And we are running to survive 24 hours a day. So meditation, yoga, good nutrition will help us to reconnect the different side of the brain through the simple practicing of asanas, which is very important just to increase the balance of neurotransmitters. So we cannot survive only fighting 24 hours a day. We have to improve our immune system, practicing the right principle of meditation. And this is what Patanjali described in the first line of the Yoga Sutras. So the purpose of yoga is to still the turbulence of the mind. So the mind, the brain is a liar. So we have to switch off the brain and to find a different pattern between the different activation of the brain. We have to switch off the remote control of our television if we don't want to listen to the noise, and we have to get inside. So COVID-19 has been a good opportunity for us to get inside, to find our dark side of our moon, expanding the light within, without looking always outside. The light is inside us. So yoga means to switch on the light and to switch off the brain. The brain is a liar. The yoga can increase the GABA activity, can increase the parasympathetic activity, can allow us to work in a better energy pattern. You know, the simple phone, when you are low in battery, they will play a different utilization of energy. So low battery execution means then sometimes we have to manage with different levels of energy. We cannot spend more than what we have in the bank account. So we have to take particular care investigating about yoga can affect individuals with mental health condition. So for us, it's better than any other drugs. So you have to quiet the mind. So we have to recover
Thank
the
you,
structure.
Mr. Pamphili. Sorry to interrupt you. We have to close. It was amazing addressing, very, very interesting, and giving us such an overview of how we are working inside and how yoga can help us. So thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
And yeah, I would like to invite and warmly welcome Ms. Alrim Altenaiji, who is the founder of Kintsugi Space from Abu Dhabi. Ms. Alrim, I would love that you can address us, waiting for your words. Your mic is not working. You have opened your mic. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here to learn more about yoga and be able to meditate and share this precious time with all of you. We all know meditation gathers power when we do it all together. So I would like to thank the organization and Gurudev for creating this conscious space to help all of us thrive in this challenging time, and also to strengthen our mental resilience. Recently in my magazine, Kintsugi, I wrote an article about this golden time where I explored why this is the perfect moment and chance to ask ourselves bigger questions and move into consciousness and meaning, and to take this challenge and opportunity to heal ourselves and repair. And I believe today with all the speakers, they were mentioning tools for all of us to use during this pandemic to heal ourselves and repair by the meditation, by the yoga. And for me personally, I focused during this time into the way I breathe, where I start to study different breathing practices. And it's a huge change, one small change, but it affects me in a big scale. It's so simple, and we take it for granted, our breathing, you know? So during this pause, I've been thinking a lot about a caterpillar and how it goes into its own cocoon in order to grow and change into beautiful butterfly. And I believe creating this festival today, it will help us to shift and transform through this virtual cocoon. So thank you, Gurudev, and thank you for all the organization and the speakers for helping us to understand more the power of meditation, the power of yoga. And I hope all the best for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alrim, for your blessings and for your beautiful addressing. Very grateful.
Thank you.
And it's my pleasure now to reach for our last keynote speaker, Professor Fari Salchoglu, who is professor of the Department of Biosciences at University Oslo in Norway. So Fari, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. And thank you for this opportunity. It's a great honor and privilege for me. What a wonderful and very timely event. In fact, what I had in mind to share with you, the speakers before me have already shared in different ways, starting with Gurudev, Sri Ravi Shankar, the Honorable Gayatri Ji, Kamlesh Ji, and of course, Professor Pamphili. Nevertheless, I will share with you some perspectives from my experience as a yoga practitioner, which I started early in college, and as a scientist. Having observed very positive effects on myself and the others, then I followed the science on yogic practices over the years. So I'd like to share with you some slides and some perspectives about that. Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes, Fari.
Oh, Okay, so I'd like to start with asking you a simple question. What are the components of wellness? So please take a moment and think in your mind, what is it that makes us feel well and healthy? Of course, you're thinking about the body, our emotions. There are several pieces that need to be in place for us to feel well. And all of these are important and influence each other. We need to keep in mind that well-being is not only perception and expectation of physical well-being, but also being intellectually stimulated by an optimal level of intellectual activity, to have a positive sense of self-regard and deal with unpleasant mood states, to have a perception of being connected well with family and co-workers, so very important during the pandemic, and having a positive perception of the environment where we work, and also have a positive perception of meaning and purpose in life, the spiritual aspect. And these are all interconnected, and there's one aspect that can break down every part and the connection between these parts, and that is chronic stress. As was described so well by Professor Panfili, stress actually is important for us to survive and perform in the short term, but if it's long term, then it starts to break our system. Despite this importance of stress, we don't give enough place for it in our healthcare system. I've given some presentations at the WHO, and each time I go, I look at their website of health topics. As you can see here, stress is not one of the topics, even though it's estimated that 75 to 90% of doctors' office visits are stress related. It's the same in the health topics of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. There is an entry on occupational stress, but that's it. So the situation is this: two medical professionals are talking to each other. One is saying, according to the latest research, the average human body is 20% water and 80% stress. So we have to do something about stress. This has been recognized by the field of psychoneuroimmunology, which posits that chronic stress, negative emotions, and individual characteristics directly affect the bidirectional interactions between the nervous system, endocrine system, and the immune system. And if we cannot deal with negative input to this P and I axis, the immune system breaks down, and of course, disease arises. However, if we are able to handle the stress, we have positive emotions and individual characteristics, P and I axis is supported, and then wellness arises. We actually know a lot about how this works. We know that chronic stress suppresses the immune system, disturbs our digestive system, increases heart rate, blood pressure, etc. In addition, it instigates bad coping strategies such as smoking and drinking, and all of these increase the risk of disease. And we know a lot about the molecular mechanisms of this. I will not go into this. There's really a great body of knowledge on this. But I wanted to share with you a landmark study which was published in 1991, looking at about 400 subjects. I think all of us experience that when we are stressed, we are most likely to catch colds then. I think this is our common experience. This was shown very directly in this study where the subjects were infected directly with different cold viruses. And as you can see here, when the psychological stress index is high, then the subjects coming down with colds increased significantly. There's basically a direct correlation. And this was true for all different types of cold viruses. And you can see a cousin of the SARS-CoV-2 that is wreaking havoc in our world now, coronavirus, was one of them. But since I'm a cancer biologist, I also brought an example from cancer biology to show the importance of environmental influences on our health and wellness, not only in terms of simple colds, but also in chronic diseases. So in cancer research, we use mice as model systems, and we house them either in normal cages, as shown on the left, or in this study, in enriched cages. As you can see, they're larger, they have a lot of toys, they're much more colorful, it's enabling the mice to socialize more, etc. So the authors of this study hypothesized that if we change the environment of the mice, then it can have an effect on cancer development. So they placed genetically identical mice, either in normal cages or enriched cages, and gave them the same food, same water, and then they injected them with human tumor cells, which grew into tumors. And what they found was very striking. When the mice grew in control cages, the tumors grow to a certain size, large tumors. When they were in the enriched environment cages, the tumors were decreased by 80%. So they ate exactly the same thing. They're genetically identical, but their environment made a major influence on the outcome. So this was for melanoma, which is one of the most aggressive tumors, but it was done for other cancers as well. Here is shown for pancreatic cancer, another very aggressive tumor. And this is not only for mice. There have been experiments showing the effect of lifestyle changes on cancer development. Here are a couple of these studies on prostate cancer showing that intensive nutrition and lifestyle intervention can have major effects on the outcome of the disease. Of course, this is not new. This is ancient knowledge that our environment, the aspects of our wellness, the wellness wheel, affects us in a major way. So this is a quote from the ancient epic Mahabharata from India, where it says, there are two classes of diseases, bodily and mental. Each arises from the other, and neither can exist without the other. Thus, mental disorders arise from physical ones, and likewise, physical disorders arise from mental ones. In fact, if you look at the very foundation of modern medicine, Hippocrates is considered to be the father of modern medicine. He said, I would rather know the person who has the disease rather than the disease the person has. This is basically a description of personalized medicine, which we've come to understand the importance of and appreciate in the last couple of decades. So there's no question we have to handle chronic stress. So how to do that? There are many different ways we can approach it. Stress management skills are there, time management, diet is important, exercise, etc. I would like to suggest that based on the published research, the ancient tools, yogic practices, breathwork, meditation are the most effective. And there are a lot of studies done on these practices. I did a search in the databases with the keyword yoga, which showed that there are about 5,500 studies, research studies in international journals. I did another search with meditation. There are about 7,000 studies. As you can see here, the research is greatly increasing in the last 2 decades or so. So there's a great interest because these practices are effective. Here's a summary on the research on yogic practices from a National Institute of Health's website. There is increased energy and vitality, increased optimism, decreased anxiety, reduced blood pressure, decreased pain, amelioration of various diseases, improved social interactions, and so forth. So it basically shows, the research shows that yogic practices affect all aspects of the wellness wheel, which is shown here. So if you come back to our wellness wheel, for example, for the physical, there are distinct physiological effects, normalization of the cortisol level, the distinct EEG changes, immune cells changes that are beneficial, decreases in chronic disease, reduced inflammation, and so forth. In terms of emotional aspect, there's increased optimism, decreased stress, anxiety, depression, mental strength, increase in resilience and emotional intelligence, and so forth. So yogic practice really has been shown by research that has the potential to fulfill all aspects of the wellness wheel. Now, how does this work? How do all of these very different effects come about? We can understand this in the context of a paradigm shift in science that we've been experiencing. One is neuroplasticity, that was referred to before by Dr. Panfili, and the second is epigenetics. So I will describe these very briefly for you. So neuroplasticity basically means that brain remains changeable even into late adulthood. When I went to medical school, the physiology textbook said that the brain develops during a critical period in early childhood, adolescence, then remains relatively unchangeable. In fact, it goes down. So many of the research studies on neuroplasticity, in fact, come from meditation research. It was documented over many decades that during meditation, there are distinct changes to the activity of the brain. So here shown from one study, if you look at this graph on the left side, you can see exactly where the meditation began with the increase in the activity of these measurements. And compared to control, meditators have significantly increased activity in certain parts of the brain. This suggested that the change in activity may give rise to changes in the very structure of the brain. And in fact, this was what was found, first reported in 2005 by researchers at Mass General Hospital, Yale University, and Harvard Medical School. What they found when they compared non-meditating subjects with those who have been meditating for some years is that in certain areas that are shown by these color-coded images, so these red areas, were found to be increased in meditators compared to controls. And this was replicated many times over. I think there are about 25 different studies now documenting similar effects of meditation. A more recent study showed that as short as 8 weeks of meditation can induce these effects. Some of the findings are shown here. Red is the meditators, blue are non-meditators, the change that occurs during 8 weeks. As you can see in a number of different areas, there are increases in the very structure of the brain. And it turns out that these areas are not haphazard. They are areas that are associated with beneficial effects. For example, they are involved in attention, introspection, sensory processing, also learning and memory, emotional regulation, perspective taking. Differences, luckily for those who may feel they are getting older, were most pronounced in older participants. That means when you do these practices, you get more effects in these areas. So the second area is close to my heart, epigenetics, because this is the area of cancer research that I'm involved in. It basically means that in addition to the DNA sequence of an organism, there are environmental effects that can switch the genes on and off, thus affect how cells function. So to explain that better, I'll give you a crash course on Bio 101. This is a picture of a cell, a cross-section. There are beautiful structures in it, different organelles such as the mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum. In the middle, there's the DNA. We all know about the DNA, which is the blueprint of our physiology. It has these packets of information called genes, and the flow of information is from DNA to RNA to protein, and this is called gene expression. So now I'll ask you a question to be on the same page. I think most people will recognize this person to the left. He is Lionel Messi, and this is Mr. Chimpanzee. So I would like to ask you, how much difference is there between the DNA of a human being, Messi, and that of a monkey? So give you 5 seconds. Is it 1 to 2%, 10%, 20%, or 50%? Yes, the answer is 1 to 2%. It's quite humbling, but we are 99, 98% identical to a chimpanzee. Now, I think a lot of you would also know this person, Roger Federer, I think greatest tennis player ever. So what is the difference between the DNAs of Messi and Federer? Again, 5 seconds. Is it 10%, 5%?
Sorry, I only can agree. I only can agree.
I know, Christoph. We are common fans of Roger. He's so great. So what do you think? 10%, 5%, 1%, 0.1%? The correct answer is 0.1%. In fact, if you think of any person that you know, we are 99.9% identical. In fact, at the level of the DNA structure, the very sequence, the old Indian dictum of Vasudev Kutumbakam is a reality. We are really a worldwide family. But if you look at the cells from one single person, nerve cells, liver cells, heart muscle cells, lymphocytes, they are very different in structure and function, but they have the same DNA. Why? It's because there are differences in gene expression. So based on this epigenetic knowledge, some years ago, we hypothesized that these beneficial effects that are observed with yogic practices, in this particular case, the SKY program that is taught by the International Art of Living Foundation, including simple yoga asanas, powerful breathing exercises, in particular the Sudarshan Kriya program, the SKY program. We asked whether SKY may induce effects in short term in participants at the level of their gene expression, at the epigenetic level. So what we did was we took a group of people, they either practiced the SKY program or they went, the same subjects, on a nature walk to listen to relaxing music. And before and after we took blood, and then in the immune cells in the blood, we analyzed the changes in gene expression. And this is what we found. I will not describe the technicalities of it. but basically every row is corresponding to a gene, and every column is a subject. With the SKY program, there were significant changes in gene expression compared with the control regimen. In fact, there were about 4-fold more changes in gene expression, epigenetic changes, by SKY compared with control regimen. This was analyzed further, and we know what these genes are. There are some interactions between these, which is for further study. So in summary, there are distinct effects of yogic practices at the molecular level. And these are likely to be in other cell types in the physiology. And they happen within 2 hours. It's almost instantaneous. I think those of us who practice yoga, the effect of yoga is immediate. The mindset, the feeling we have when we go into the yoga session, when we come out, is very different. And this happens all the way down to the effects at the epigenetic level. Of course, further studies are needed. And to summarize overall, for sustainable health and wellness, including mental health, but as we saw, it is linked to everything else we experience as individuals, one needs to consider all aspects of the individual. And the basis of doing so is to support the psychoneuroimmunology axis, engaging the epigenetic level and neuroplasticity. And based on the research that's available, among the different tools to achieve this, I believe yogic practices are arguably the most powerful tool. So I'd like to finish with this cartoon a friend of mine drew. He is a medical doctor. So this person is trying to mop up the floor of the water that is overflowing from a sink because the faucet is open. I think we, in our Western approach to health, and in fact, in personal considerations, often find ourselves in this kind of state. We are treating the symptom or trying to treat the symptom because you can do only so much. Here, luckily, a friend comes and he has an idea.
We need to wind up. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm finishing. So he closes the faucet, and then, of course, this is curing the root cause. And this is, in fact, what Kamleshi was mentioning, the principle of Heyam Dukam Anagatam in yoga.
Thank you, Fariji. I have to stop you here. We have so many things to come.
Show the picture from Norway. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your being with us, for all the interesting sharings. And we are going to close this first opening session. And I thank warmly all the panelists here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the session of our workshops. So we are going through these challenging times, and the importance of yoga knowledge, which can help us significantly to go through this, is unmeasurable. So the purpose of this festival is to bring together all the experts in the field and exchange their knowledge and practices. With this short introduction, I would like to welcome our next speaker, Dr. Rishi Chopra, who is the founding and officiating head in the Department of Contemplative and Behavioral Sciences at Sri Sri University from India. During this session, please feel free to write your questions to our honorable speaker in the chat message, and if time allows, we will try to have a Q&A question at the end. Thank you, dear Dr. Chopra. Now time is floor for you.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations to the organizers for organizing such a profound, insightful conference on mental health, and especially linking it to yoga. For me, when I heard about this conference, it was like a dream come true, where I could see that how the knowledge of yoga actually relates so much to mental health. I'm basically a psychologist by my academics, by my study, and trained in modern psychology for almost 20 years back. And interestingly, after I completed my doctorate, and through the period of completing my doctorate in modern psychology, I do not recall of any instance where I could actually objectively watch my thoughts, watch my feelings. For me, the whole study was observing the behavior patterns of the other, never about my own self. And as a result of not having this knowledge to empower my own inner world within, perhaps there was something that was missing deeply in my life. Until I met Gurudev, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. And the way he took me, I would talk about myself here, to understand my entire entity in terms of not just the mind-body complex, but to see beyond. That journey has really been extremely fascinating. So not that I have been trained in something called as yoga psychology. My training has been in modern psychology. But now when I look back, after a span of 20 years, having been with a living enlightened master, it is very intriguing and interesting for me to draw the parallels between modern psychology and the knowledge of yoga, which I have started to now relate is nothing but all the underpinnings of psychology and much beyond. So this session is titled Yoga Psychology. I would just switch on my PowerPoint presentation. I'll share my slides. Yes. So today we'll look into an interesting topic, and it's called Yoga Psychology, a pathway to mental well-being. So before we go into the experiential part, I would just like to draw the attention of all the audience to certain tenets of psychology from the West and the East. So discovering psychology, which is a science of the mind, a science of mental processes, and a science of behavior. So for many of us, we may know what the study of psychology is, and there may be many who may not know as to what this subject of psychology actually encompasses. So for all of us to start on ground zero, I thought that let me just give a little clarity on certain mental stuff that we all encounter, and it all happens within us, so that we understand this session a little more deeply. So as I said earlier, psychology is a scientific study. Science is something which can be replicated, which can be validated. And a scientific study of behavior as an outcome of certain mental processes is what is called psychology in the most normative term. And some of the mental processes that we are all quite aware of is, for example, perception. Okay? It's a very common term, perception, to be able to perceive things. Whatever the sense organs are drawing from the world, to give it a meaning, that is what is perception, right? Then we have other mental processes, that is sensation. If somebody pinches me, I get a pain, feeling of sensation is there. Then we have mental processes like thoughts, thinking all the time, without our knowing, not knowing. The process of thinking continuously goes on. Then there is the process of learning. We see things, we learn, and there's so many learning theories in psychology. I'm not going to go into the in-depth of the theoretical processes of any of these cognitive underpinnings. But yes, learning is also a mental process, and there is a way how we learn things. So, and then we have attention, wherein we can focus our mind dedicatedly, and where we need to see and where we do not need to see. That attention part is also there. It's an ability. We also have the mental processes of memory. We remember things. Yes. What is it that I ate for breakfast? What is it that I studied 20 years back? We remember. So there's a long-term memory, short-term memory, and so on and so forth. So these are the basic cognitive processes, and we also have advanced cognitive processes. For example, creativity, rational thinking, reflective thinking, problem solving. So in this so-called brain, there's so much of mental processes, mental activities happening within all of us, right? So this scientific study of these mental processes, which in turn gives rise to behavior, this whole endeavor is more or less is what is encompassed in the study of psychology. So I do not know if we have the provision for a chat as I'm talking. But yes, I would like to pose a few questions to the audience, a few philosophical questions on the mind. So we have talked about the mental processes and what are the different mental processes that all of us go through: thinking, perception, memory, creativity. This is so many, learning. And many of us relate that it is all due to the brain. It is all due to the brain. And there have been theories which have said that brain is equal to mind, right? So let's go further with a couple of philosophical questions. That what is the mind? So we have talked about mental processes, and these mental processes emanating because of certain neural firings. Now the next philosophical question is, what is the mind? What is the relationship between the body, this physical body, and the mind, if there is any? And the third very interesting question is the mind present at birth, or is it formed through our experiences? And if it is formed through our experiences, how deep do these experiences run way down the memory lane? So I'll see if there is any scope to converse with the audience. I do not know if that option is present as I'm presenting, but yes, maybe the audience can just note these questions, and it will be nice to have your ideas, your thoughts as to what is the mind. Is mind equal to mental stuff? Let me add one more question, which is not there in the slide. We did talk about certain mental processes, and that is what is psychology. So what is the mind? What is the relationship between mind and body? Is mental stuff and mind the same? And is the mind present when we are born? Or does the mind develop through our day-to-day experiences? Or is the mind coming way down our memory lane, even before we are born? So to study all this, modern psychology is a young field, not a very old field, about 140, 50 years young. And there have been various theories, various perspectives to understand the human psyche, the human dimension, various perspectives. So not going into the depth of the perspectives, but just to acquaint us with this, is that there have been psychologists, philosophers, physiologists who have tried to understand this human entity through different theories, behaviorism, which study more of the behavior, outer behavior. Then cognitive psychologists, more into experiment, the mental stuff. Then the humanistic approach is, it is something like, I know that I am. That component of I-ness is encompassed in the humanistic. That subjectivity, that subjective understanding of my own self, that component. So there are a group of theorists who have studied human beings through this approach. And then the very famous psychodynamic approach, Freudian theory of, that talks about the unconscious mind, and that whatever happened in our childhood, is actually resulting in our adulthood. So different approaches to understand why we are the way we are. And there are other approaches also in psychology to understand the human psyche, the human dimension. Now, when we talk of psychology in India, this knowledge has been present for thousands of years on the human mind. Rather, the knowledge of the human as a whole entity in this part of the country has been very holistic, interdependent, not as just one stream of life, interdependent. And it has grown organically. And the whole and sole purpose of the knowledge of the human psyche, the main purpose has been liberation. That is the beauty of the underpinnings of the understanding of the human psyche that actually has been witnessed in this part of the world. And the knowledge of the human mind, the wanderings of the human mind, the understanding of the human mind, the ailments of the human mind, the development of the human mind, has been talked about through our different philosophies that we call the Shad Darshanas. Yoga is one of the Shad Darshanas, one of the philosophies. Ayurveda, the Bhagavad Gita, very, very classic I would say a grantha of knowledge between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, all about the human mind. The Vedas, the Upanishads. If we go deeply into any of these texts and the practices and the philosophy, it is absolutely intriguing as to how the human psyche has been dealt with, approached. The concepts of the Panchakoshas, the 5 sheets, that we are just not this flesh and body. There are sheets. Annamaya Kosh, the body, the human body, the environment. The Pranamaya Kosh, the subtle life energy flows. The Manomaya Kosh, the sheath of thoughts. The Vijnanmaya Kosh, the sheath of emotions, intuitive knowledge, wisdom. And the Anandmaya Kosh, that is bliss. So the Indian way to look at the human existence has been so interesting. And that is why I say it has been very holistic. So there is the kosha theory, the Panchakosha theory, to look at the human being. There is the 3 guna theory, the doshas, the sattva guna, that characteristics, that guna, that gives rise to purity, clarity. Or the rajo guna, that gives rise to activity. Or the tamoguna, that gives rise to inertia, dullness, the guna theory. Then we have the chakra theory, the energy centers, and how the subtle life energy flows through the chakras and the nadis, which ultimately then affect the way we think, the way we feel. The 4 states of consciousness: waking state, sleeping state, dreaming state, and the state beyond all this, supra-consciousness. So all this knowledge has been there, very much there, in our ancient scriptures and a part of our philosophy and practice. Everything to do with the understanding of the human psyche. When we talk of consciousness from the perspective of Indian psychology, it is more to do with the awareness within. See, for instance, if I'm able to see something right in front of me right now, I'm able to see this glass or this light. So what I'm seeing, the glass or the light, is the object. And my eyes, the subject. Now I know that right now my eyes are closed. Or my eyes, even though my eyes are closed, I'm aware that my eyes are closed and they are still moving even if they are closed. So who is it who knows that my eyes is closed? Who is watching my eyes that is closed? And this eyes which is closed now becomes the object, and what is watching these eyes that is closed becomes the subject. Likewise, if I take a step back, I know that I'm not feeling good. I know that my mind is not stable. I know that there are too many vicissitudes in my mind. My mind is going up and my mind is going down. Who is it that is watching my mind? So that mind now becomes the object, and there is an awareness within me which knows that the mind is going up and down. That becomes the subject. So in this, the way of looking at the mind in Indian psychology is the mind which is an object. The mind is the object, and through this object, transcending this object, can one become one with that awareness, that sense of I am there, which is certainly beyond the mind, certainly beyond the mind. Nobody needs to tell me whether I am or I am not. No equipment can measure that. It is possible to measure my intellectual abilities. It is possible to measure how I interact with the society. There may be so many questionnaires and scales and advanced tests and tools. But the way I know what is within me, that no third person can know that. That is the beauty of the understanding of the human psyche from the first person perspective, which we also called as existential inquiry. Not the third person perspective, the first person perspective, to be able to see myself objectively, to be able to see my thoughts objectively, to be able to see my emotions objectively. So the whole understanding of consciousness is way beyond the mind. So again, a few questions for all of us to just chew upon. Maybe we can interact in the last, so we can just continue. For example, how does the brain, this piece of meat, if I would say, with all the neural firings and the gray matter, how does it create the conscious experience, the subjective experience? And why is the subjective experience for all the human beings having more or less the same anatomy and the same physiology different? Then a couple of questions more. How does perception, the ability to perceive things, become the first person experience where I'm able to perceive things that are happening right within me and not the outside perception? Then how independent is our awareness from this mind-body complex? Like I said, I spoke about awareness, which is beyond the body, beyond the mind, that I-ness, I am. And being in that awareness, I know what is happening in my mind. So how independent is this awareness? So to understand all these things becomes quite tough. And that is why it is called, in the scientific language, modern language, the hard problem of consciousness. How do we address this? How do we attribute the subjectivity, the feeling of subjectivity? How do we measure that? If I am hungry, I know I am hungry. I don't need any instrument or any third person to tell I'm hungry. And my hunger And that state of hunger is most authentic to me. So this is where the knowledge of yoga and Vedanta, it really contributes to the complete understanding of the human dimension, the human mind. The nature of human awareness, it has to, this, because it needs to, that awareness is because it needs to learn to reflect on the self, that awareness that we all have, which becomes more and more a true living entity that happens once we are able to transcend the nature of our mind, which is shaky, which is restless. Until I was exposed to this knowledge, not academically, but experientially for the last 20 years, for me, my thoughts were my reality. My emotions were my reality. Whatever was happening in my mind, whatever I was thinking, that was my lens. There was no objectivity to watch my own thoughts. And what happens? It's a bombardment of reactions, a bombardment of misperceptions. The thoughts are colored, so the world looks colored. So taking a step ahead now, going to Indian psychology, there is a term called Antahakarana, which is like I can relate to a Sukshma body, Sukshma Sharira. Sharira is subtle. And in the Antakarana, the cognition, that is the mental processes that we talked about, that includes memory, intellect, emotions, that is affect, intelligence, perception, all of that is contained. So we talked about the cognitive, the mental stuff in the beginning of my presentation. And now we are drawing the parallels to Indian psychology, wherein in this Antahakarana, all these processes, undisputed memory, intelligence, perception is all contained. And all these span across various layers of sheets called the koshas. We talked about the Annamaya kosha. It's like a sheath, a covering. Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosh, Manomaya kosh, Vignanmaya kosh. And then they talk about the functional classification of the mind, not the structural classification of the mind. Functional, the functionality of the mind has been studied very deeply, being divided into four broadly. There's no such clear-cut divisions, but yes, which talks about Chittam. Chittam is that awareness, that inward awareness that throws light on the mind, the manas. And then the buddhi, the discerning ability, buddhi, and that ahamkar, the sense of identity, I-ness. So mind has been classified in our system broadly based on its functions. Chittam, that is an inward awareness, buddhi, manas before that, and ahamkar. Isn't it beautiful that this knowledge has been here for thousands of years ago, almost dissecting the human psyche so beautifully. There is a classical text on yoga called Patanjali Yoga Sutras. There's no clarity as to when exactly was it compiled, but thousands of years ago. And the first verse of Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, Ataha Yoga Anushasanam. Now I will enunciate to you the discipline of yoga. Now? When nothing is in the right place. When the mind and the heart are not there. That is the time this knowledge of yoga I will now enunciate. So that means the understanding that the mind is an unstable entity, and that it can be stabilized through the knowledge, through the philosophy, through the practice of yoga, has been here for thousands of years. And the next verse says, it talks about the mind. What is yoga? Chitta vritti nirodha. Vritti is the modulation, up and down. Mind keeps going up and down. So a mind in which the modulations are arrested, modulations are restrained, that is yoga. See, again, they're talking of yoga not as asana, but again, as a state of mind which is free from the modulations. So they're talking about the afflictions of the mind, the modulations of the mind, thousands of years back. So yoga has everything to do with ultimately the mind. And then it says, what happens when there is chitta vritti nirodha? When the mind when the modulations in the mind is restrained, what happens? The next verse says, tada drishtuhu swarupe avasthanam. So that the seer, the witness beyond the mind is seated, is abiding in its own nature. And what happens if there are vrittis? What happens then? Vritti swarupe itaratra. If there is no chitta vritti nirodha, then one tends to associate oneself with the modulations of the mind, and that becomes one's reality. Now, what are the modulations of the mind? I'm sure many of us know it. Wanting a proof, pramana. A wrong understanding, we call this viparyaya. Imagining things, it is not there, but we imagine. Vikalpa, nidra, and smriti. So the tendency of the human mind is to be more or less in one of the 5 vrittis. See, if we just see in our lives and just reflect back and just watch our mind, yes, in this moment, yes, it may be imagining something. It's not there, but just imagining. So vikalpa. Or it may be caught up in some wrong knowledge. The reality is something else, but the mind has a wrong preconceived notion about it. Viparyaya. Or right now I may be speaking something and yes, no, yes, she's right. No, she's not right. That logic. Pramana. And so on and so forth. The mind is caught up in these vrittis. And through the knowledge of yoga, one can restrain these vrittis and get connected to one's state of being. That is what is yoga. So it is understood that when one is not associating with the turbulences of the mind and can see it as a witness, naturally the mind gets into a state of equanimity. That is yoga. Otherwise, the mind is caught up in the vrittis, sometimes problematic vrittis, sometimes non-problematic vrittis. and so on and so forth. Then more to the knowledge of mind, again beautifully. So Patanjali, Maharshi Patanjali talked about the nature of the mind, the modulation of the mind in the terms of vrittis. He also talked about the kleshas, the colorings of the thoughts. Avidya, ignorance, asmita, egotism, raga, attachment, dvesha, animosity, abhinivesha, clinging to life. So see how deeply the nature of the mind, the modulations of the mind, the colorings of the mind which can color our perception, the distractions of the mind, the obstacles of the mind. It is all there on the slide, and I'm sure most of us will know about it, or one can always go into the details of it later. But the whole idea in this session is that how the nature of the mind, the workings of the mind, the nuances of the mind were so beautifully deciphered and understood thousands of years ago. And to handle the mind, the knowledge of yoga was given. Then the states of the mind has also been talked about. Chitta Bhumi, very interesting. The Kshipta talks about the mind which is alternating between different states, like a monkey. Then there is the other state of the mind, the Mudha. A mind which is colored by lust, greed, infatuation. See what happens when the mind is tainted with these things. Then the next state of the mind, Vikshipta. One moment on the ground, one moment on the sky. There's no balance. And then the Ekagra, a mind which is focused, sharp, intuitive, where the I-ness is dissolved and one is connected to the source. It's the states of the mind. Niruddha, fully focused mind. After Ekagra, a fully focused mind. So since we are talking about psychology, it is interesting to know about the workings of a mind. So when complexity in the mind arises, what is the complexity? When the mind is caught up in different modulations, obstacles, mind is in different states, the way we just saw, the mind becomes very complex. And this complexity increases because the mind is more and more drawn towards the sense objects outside. Whatever the mind feeds into itself through what it sees, through what it hears, that becomes the content of the mind. I'm sure we all agree to that. And currently, our lives are most of the time spent working, say, getting up in the morning, looking into the Facebook, or it is caught up in some work, checking on our WhatsApp, social media, listening to what people say. So the kind of content that is going inside through the five sense organs is creating the content of our mind. And whatever is the content of the mind, that is how is going to be giving rise to the content as to how I feel, isn't it? So beautifully, the whole deciphering of the human mind and how it works has been beautifully given in the underpinnings of the mind based on the philosophies of yoga and Vedanta. And the prescription to come out of a mind which is, surrounded by complexities, tapas, some discipline, pranayama, asana, swadhyaya, and so on. There's a beautiful saying by His Holiness Dalai Lama, says the systematic training of the mind, the cultivation of happiness, the genuine inner transformation by deliberately selecting and focusing on positive mental states and challenging negative mental states is possible because of the very structure and function of the brain. But the wiring in the brain is not static, not irrevocably fixed. Our brains are also adaptable. I was hearing the speaker in front ahead of me who was talking of neuroplasticity. And what thoughts we think actually creates those grooves inside our brains. And that is why it is said that yes, neurosculpting, through neurosculpting, the states of our consciousness can be also altered. The way we feel can be altered by just culturing what is going on in our mind. So the whole presentation was to give a glimpse of how the mind is seen, how the mind is understood, how the workings of the mind is understood in modern psychology, and how there are such beautiful parallels of the workings of the human mind in the Indian ethos, and also the different ways and techniques by which the mind can be understood, the functionality of the mind can be understood. See, we cannot handle something unless we really don't know about it. If I know how my body behaves, only it is possible to handle my body once I really understand the functionings of my body. It is possible to understand my mind only once when I know as to what are the nuances of the mind, what are the nitty-gritties of the mind. If I do not understand the workings of my car, it is almost impossible to repair the car. Of course, I will have to take it to a garage and ask somebody else to repair my car. But this vehicle, my mind-body complex, it is very much possible through the knowledge of yoga to understand my own self through the subjective experience. It is very much possible to understand the workings of my mind, to understand the vicissitudes of my mind. And through the practice of the techniques of asana, pranayama, meditation, swadhyaya, satsanga, it is so much possible to change, to alter the contents of my mind, no matter how it is, and to go beyond the mind, transcend the mind, and then live a life which is so full and not succumbing to the nature of the mind, but using the mind as one's best friend to really live a life which is so free, so rejoiceful, free from all colors, all perceptions. So once I understand the workings of the mind through all the knowledge that is present in the yoga philosophy, because the way is already given, the workings of the mind is already given. It's almost as good as being standardized. And it is not some theory which I cannot relate to, because once we read those things, understand, and just look back, and we can, yes, relate, oh yeah, this is happening, oh yeah, my mind is working like this, of course. And through the practices, it becomes very easy to handle the overpowering nature of the mind and to trust in the mind. So yoga is just not about asana. Yoga is a state of mind which is equanimous, which is responsive, which is emotionally intelligent, not just intellectually intelligent. We need a balance of both, right? If the emotional intelligence is not there, the analytical intelligence may not know how deep to go into any situation. So we need that emotional intelligence to balance the analytical intelligence. So yoga is that holistic knowledge, which is all about the human psyche. And through the yamas, through niyamas, which are more of the mental disciplines, the polishing of the mind stuff, it is very, very easy to be totally empowered and onto oneself and live a life which is without fear, which is without hatred, which is without attachment, and to be so free. This knowledge is to give us that freedom. And why I can speak about it so much is because I have experienced it, having studied modern psychology and 20 years with the living master. It is just amazing as to how a proper reflection into the knowledge of yoga can help us cleanse our mind stuff. So not just relating yoga to asana or meditation, yes, of course. But why asana? Why meditation? Why svadhyaya? I would say a step preceding that is to first understand the workings of our own mind, and yoga is all about handling the nuances of the mind. I am going to use an air conditioner only when I feel hot. So if things are not right in my mind, it is very important that I understand the workings of my mind, because it is my mind. If I know so much well about my human body, I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and so on and so forth. It is very, very important to know what are the workings of my mind, because it is my mind. So psychology or yoga psychology is not something, a study which only a couple of students need to study. It's not about that. It is something which is extremely relevant to each one of us, because we all have the dimension of mind, and we all have the power to go beyond the dimension of that mind. That is why the study of psychology, mental processes, consciousness is so important, because unless we know ourselves, we know how to handle ourselves through that knowledge, it is not possible to handle anything outside. So as we almost conclude the session, I would like to take everybody through a very short, interesting film on psychology and contemplation. Contemplation can be through yoga, it can be through Vedanta, it could be through anything. Anything that takes me inward, anything that makes me see my own self. Yes? So can I request the organizer to please play the film? It's a very short film, very beautiful. Have a look. we can stop the video. Thank you so much. If there is, I think we have another 4 minutes for my session to go. If there is any question.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Richa Chopra. There are quite a number of questions.
Yes.
So we'll see, maybe we'll not be able to cover all of them, but Alex is asking how to apply all this amazing knowledge of science of consciousness in practice. So for instance, if we meet on a daily life people who are complaining or focusing on negativities.
The knowledge of consciousness may look very overwhelming, but actually it is as natural the way my skin is natural to me. It is only that, unfortunately, we have been taught about every kind of study, whether it is in the field of humanities or sciences, but we have not been taught how to handle our own mind. What is the working of our mind? So now, with these sincere questions as to how can we apply all this beautiful knowledge in our life, I think we need to create a very strong advocacy all over the world that the knowledge of the dimension of the mind, the workings of the mind, and how the mind can be handled actually has to become a part of the school system. So that when children grow, they know how to handle the world within, and as a result, they can handle anything outside. Yes, so we need to create advocacy. And yes, we just saw the film. We are making a very, very humble attempt to bring in contemplative sciences from world traditions, whether it is yoga, Vedanta, Judaism, Christianity, mysticism. We are bringing in an effort to bring all the knowledge of mind sciences from contemplative world traditions into mainstream psychology. And we are starting the programs of undergrad, postgrad, and doctoral programs in psychology and contemplative studies in the Art of Living's University, Sri Sri University. Yes, somebody's asking where can I find the short film to watch again. I would request, you could go to the website of srisriuniversity.edu.in, go to the page of Department of Contemplative and Behavioral Sciences, and you will see the film there. Or I would request the organizers to also post the link of this film on the YouTube channel. Yes, thank you so much. Any other question? We can take maybe one more.
A lot of questions about where to find more information, how to deepen the understanding of this amazing knowledge.
To study psychology and contemplation together. We are the pioneers, perhaps, in the world to bring academically modern psychology and world contemplative traditions together in the form of a bachelor and a master degree. And the beautiful part is that, yes, if somebody has not studied a bachelor in psychology, they can certainly pursue a master's in psychology and contemplative studies in Sri Sri University in India. So I would invite you to come study for 2 years, 2.5 years, and take the knowledge of the best of East and West on mind sciences to the world and create more and more contemplative psychologists.
Thank you so much. We have a chat full of gratitude messages. I think everyone was blown away by the depth of this knowledge. There are some other questions, and we will do our best to take them offline and provide you with the answers. Thank you so much, Dr. Chopra.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity, and thank you so much. Stay blessed. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Jai Gurudev.
Thank you. How can we exit? That's it.
Stay connected for noon meditation with Swamiji Jyotirmaya.
Almost political or socio-economic perspective. We had Sri Sri Ravi Shankar again speaking to us, and now we have dived deeper into the practice of yoga with Tahir, which is fantastic, and parallel 12 workshops going on from kids to all age group and different topics. Now we have with Swami Jyotirmaya, and Swamiji, I believe that when Mahatma Gandhi said that we need to be the change we want to see in the world, that he has said something very powerful, and that is let's say, a very difficult thing to achieve, to really walk the talk. And Swamiji, I think for all of us knowing you here in Europe with your work, I think we can truly say you are doing that. You are so beautifully an embodiment of this compassion, love, and care that yoga stands for. And of course, you are an incredible trainer. You are inspiring many thousands around the world and here in Europe. So it's great we have you, and we can dive deep into the meditation with you, Swamiji. So over to you.
Christoph-ji, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm humbled and honored to be part of this very noble cause. This moment I'm taking for a minute to congratulate you, Christoph-ji, because 10-12 days back, you told us to organize this magnanimity of the program, and the whole Sri Sri School of Yoga team got together. Just because of that action, now hundreds of thousands of people all over the world getting benefited. So thank you for the entire team.
Thank you.
And shall we start now? Shall we meditate? So I have to see a big smile on your face, all of you. Then only we'll start meditation. That's the first qualification for meditation. First, we can all shake your hands, both hands to the sides and to the up. And relax. And shoulders lift up and drop your shoulders. Breathe in. And relax. In next few minutes, we are going to keep our body still and immobile. There are 3 golden rules for meditation. One is doing nothing, want nothing, and I am nobody. Okay, let us close our eyes gently. Relax your shoulders, neck. Breathe out and relax. Relax your body and relax your mind. Take a long, deep breath in. Hold the breath and breathe out through your mouth. Relax your both legs, all the muscles in your body. Take a deep breath in, the very first act we all did it in our life. Hold the breath. Breathe out very slowly this time. The last act we do in our life. Keep a gentle smile on your face. You are the source of joy. Breathe in. Hold the breath. Breathe out through your mouth. Now we will say 3 times Om. Om means unconditional love. Breathe in. Become aware of your surroundings. The place where you are sitting now. The entire room. Expand your awareness without much effort. The wall, floor, and the ceiling. Empty space above your head. And listen to the noises, if there are any. Sometimes traffic noise, people talk. Good sound, disturbing noise. Be with it. Now slowly take your attention to your body and relax all the muscles. Love your body very dearly. And take your attention to your right leg, right foot, right knee, and relax your right thigh muscles. Once you take your attention to a particular part of your body, all the muscles get relaxed there naturally. Left leg, left foot, knee, thigh, hip, relax your both legs. Genitals, abdomen, stomach, right arm, elbow, palm, fingers, left arm, chest, shoulders, throat, lips, eyebrows, relax your eyebrows, eyes, Breathe in. Breathe out and relax your whole body. Observe the breath in the nostrils. Breath is moving in and out non-stop. You are grateful for this breath. Breathe in and relax. Observe the breath with a smiling face. Observe the thoughts. Different kinds of thoughts do come. Let them all come and go. Little more attention to your thoughts. Positive thoughts, negative thoughts. And observe the feelings. Pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings. Breathe in and let go. Let go all your efforts and rest. Next 2 minutes, total silence. No instructions. Be with yourself. Repose in yourself. Akashat padidam toyam yada gacchati sakaram sarvadeva namaskaraha keshavam pratikacchati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Become aware of your thoughts, feelings, And become aware of your surroundings. Listen to the sounds. Become aware of your body, your arms, legs, the whole body. And with a smile, slowly breathe in. And with a smile, breathe out. And keep your hands in a namaste position, prayerful posture, eyes closed. And you may chant, Loga Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Let there be a peace in this world. Breathe in. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And send positive energy to the whole world. And relax. And you may crack open your eyes just 2%, 3%. Very little. The ray of light again entering to your eyes. And open little more. Breathe in with a smile. And breathe out with a smile. And you may open your eyes completely. Hope you all enjoyed these few minutes of silence. The experience we get only because of the one enlightened being's blessings. So myself, I'm so fortunate to walk on this planet with Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankarji's knowledge. I hope you all join for forthcoming Art of Living Sri Sri Yoga Level 1 with the most senior Sri Sri Yoga teacher, Kamalesh Barwal, June 17th to 20th. So do not miss the opportunity, join. There are 4 obstacles in our life. Would you like to know? The first obstacle is we are caught up in our progeny, Putreshna. We are thinking all the time about our own dear and near ones, what's going to happen to them. Thinking about our children, father, grandfather, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. Then also we cannot come into the present moment. And we are not serving 100% quality time with them. The first obstacle is Putreshna, thinking about the progeny. And the second obstacle, Vitteshna, will I sufficient money? What about my position? What going to happen with my profession? That also an obstacle. And the third one is Lokeshna. What other people think about me. And the fourth one, Jiveshna, only caught up in the physical level, 5 senses, more pleasure. I want to be more, enjoy more. That's make you tired. And you cannot be natural. You feel exhausted and drained if you start using all your 5 senses all the time. So if you want to know more about this knowledge, come and join the level 1 with the Kamalesh. Not only talk, you will experience this, how to overcome these 4 obstacles from our life. Yeah. With these words, thank you to the whole Sri Sri Yoga European school team.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. And I think before lunch, this was really food for the soul. It was an absolute great experience. And we are all very precious to have Swamiji with us today. For the program, as I indicated earlier, for the program with Kamlesh that Swamiji spoke about, you can sign up and you can be part of a lottery to win a ticket. You could scan the QR code here. Now we'll go for lunch. Let us have a healthy lunch, and after lunch, we will meet Swami Paramtesh for something which I personally look very much forward. He will do with us the Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra is a situation where our body is completely relaxed, but the mind is still present. So you can just lie down, relax, and really rest and repose with Swami Paramtesh on this channel. And then we will go into different in the next keynote panel, and there we will see actually the beautiful variety of different types of yogas, different approaches of yogas. We will have speakers from different yoga schools from 2:30 till 4. We'll then go again into workshops, parallel workshops, to do some stretches and to do some body work, and we'll complete the afternoon with a meditation. And just for your notice, after the dinner break, there will be also mantras and dance. I think that's what we could call a rich program. Great to be with all of you. Beautiful to be connected around the world, and enjoy the lunch. Thank you very much, Swamiji, to be with us. Thank you.